Hi friends, it's Miss Mahan. We are on Unit 7, Lesson 7. Your learning target is to use data to create line plots. I am going to walk you through how to take the data from the table and turn it into a line plot. So the first thing that we need to do is create a top label or a title for our line plot at the bottom. So we're going to get that directly from the table. It said flower heights inches. So I'm going to add a text box and type that in. Flower heights, parentheses, inches. And then move this text box to this line. There's our title or top label. Now I'm going to finish doing the scale. So you see the scale at the bottom has lines, and then the only number that's filled in for us already is the number 6 for number of inches. So we're going to fill in the rest of those lines. So right before 6 is going to come 5. So I'm going to put a 5 in a box, and then I'll move that box down to here. And then after 6 comes 7, so that'll be on the other side, and then we'll just go up until all those lines are filled. So now our scale is filled in, and we can start marking the data from the table onto the line plot. So I'm going to start in the top left corner. The first value is 8. So the way I'm going to do this is by putting in a text box. And if you guys have seen line plots before, you know that they're marked with X's. So I'm going to use an X, and I'm going to drag it to be above the 8. Now I'm going to put in a line so I can cross out the number 8 that I just put in the table. So every time I add a number from the table into the line plot, I'm going to cross it off so that I know I've done it. So you can either go across the rows to put in the values, or you can go up and down the columns, whichever is going to be easier or better for you. It's really up to you how you want to do that. So I will probably go across the rows. So next I will do 10. So I'm on the second row, and my next number is a 9, and I already have a text box started for the 9 value, so I'm going to go to that one, press return to go to a new line, and put another X. And same thing for 8. Open up that text box, click on return, and add another X. I'm in the very last row now, and I have 2 8s in a row, so I'm going to go ahead and do those at the same time. Okay, so we have completed the line plot for this graph, which is about flower heights, and we can see that the most common flower height is 8 inches. And out of our data, we have only 1 6-inch flower height, only 2 9-inch flower heights, and 3 of each for both 7 and 10 inches. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you kind of a different way to do it, but it's still basically the same, but it kind of will speed up the process for you a little bit if you thought that this took too long. So on this one, we have snake lengths in feet. So I'm going to add a text box for my title, snake lengths, parentheses, feet. We already are given a bottom label that says number of feet, so we just have to fill in the scale. So since they don't give us a starting value, we need to look at the table. So we have 10, 11, 7, 6, 9, and 5. So let's start our table at 5, and then we'll go up to 11. One thing you can do is you can just use one text box and you can do a bunch of spaces. Now, if you do more than one space, it'll give you a decimal at the end of 5 because it thinks that you're making a list of numbers. But you can go back in and delete those as soon as you're done putting all of the values in. One thing about line plots is that the values are always, well, nearly always, they're going to be right one after the other. So we won't really have increments of like 5s or 10s like we do for bar graphs. Okay, so that sped us up a little bit. Now it's time to put in the actual lengths for each snake that was measured. So I'm going to start at 5, and I'm going to see how many times 5 comes up in the data table. So I'm looking in each of the boxes, and every time I see a 5, I know I need to make one X. So there's only one 5. So I'm putting an X. Move that to the 5 place. And then we're done with 5s. They only had 1. So 6s, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look in each box, and every time I see a 6, I know I need to do one X. So I see 1, 2, 3. So in my text box, I'm going to do 1, return, 2, return, 3. Now move this box to the place for 6. There we go. Now that I'm starting to get several of these knocked out, I'm going to go in and cross out the ones that I've done so that I don't count them more than once or think that I've forgotten to count them. So I'm crossing out the 5s and the 6s right now. One thing you could do is you could copy this data table like on a piece of paper, and then you could just cross it off with your pencil after you do each of the values. Next is 7, so I'm going to go through the table and see how many times I see a 7. 1, 2, 3. So that's the same as 6, so I can just copy and paste and then move that one over to the 7. Then cross those out of the data table so that you know that you've already put them into the line plot. Okay, for 8, there's actually no snakes that measured 8 feet, so that one we'll just leave blank. Now let's look for 9s. I see 2 9s. So insert a text box, X, return, X for 2. Move that to the 9. And then cross them off on your data table. Next is 10s. 1, 2, 3, 4. So add a text box with 4 lines of X's to mark the 4 10-foot snakes. That's a long snake. And then move that to above the 10. There we go. Cross those off on the table. Okay, and then for 11, there's just one of those. So I'm going to copy my box from the 5 and paste it, and then move that over to the 11. And then cross the 11 out on the data table so I know that I did it. Okay, that is taking information from the data table and making a line plot out of it. You will have one like the first one where part of it is filled in for you on the scale, so you just have to finish the scale. And you'll have one like this where you have to do the entire scale yourself. So if you have questions, you can leave a class comment or a private comment and I can help you, but this should be pretty easy for you to do.